So theory is over, it's time to build. We are taking these 15 core nodes we've just learned about and building a smart lead intake system that researches our leads, scores them using AI, and then sends a notification on Slack. So this is the flow I specifically built for this tutorial to show you that you can build these systems with a very limited number of nodes. So I already kind of mapped every single node into a right category we just discussed. So we have triggers, data transformation, flow control, connectivity and storage, AI and LLMs. So in my opinion, there are two types of people, or two camps. The first group of people builds the flows from top to bottom, and the second one is building the flows from left to right. I actually belong to the second group. I think in this specific case, it was very appropriate to use the waterfall kind of flow, so you guys can easily read it and understand which nodes have been used where, in what category. So now let's switch the view and have a look at exactly the same flow, but this time around this flow has been built from left to right, so it's kind of more natural to me. So yeah, apologies guys if you belong to this first camp. So here's the summary of the workflow. A lead submits the form, then we check if this lead actually exists in our CRM database. If it's a new lead, we'll use AI to research their company and then classify him as low value, mid value or high value. If it's a high value lead, we're gonna get notified by Slack. All this information gonna be logged into our database. So first of all, let's fill in the form for the user who already exists in our database. Let's click on form submission and then execute the step. n8n form appears. Let's fill in the details, press submit. So the form has been submitted, and on the right hand side we can see the details of this person or the lead. Let's go back, let's press P and pin this data so we can run the flow. So the next thing we did, we actually normalize the data using set edit fields node. So let's open it. In here on the left hand side we have our input from the form. So name is with capital N. Every single field name starts with a capital letter, but we would like to make it database friendly and keep everything in small case. We changed the names of the fields, introduced new fields like created at, so this is when the form was submitted. Previous fields were strings only. However, this has marketing consent is a boolean field, and also we have the array, which is a list of services, and as we can see the array actually lives under the square brackets, so there are 3 items. AI strategy, automation builds, and reporting and dashboards. This is what the person actually selected. We have all the input information on the left hand side. We have manipulated the data in the middle section, so by changing the field names, adding additional fields, changing the data types, and introduced a new field like contact, which contains all the personal information. We can execute this step, and now we can see how our output data looks like. So we have input data on the left hand side, we have manipulated the data in the middle, on the right hand side we have the output data. And now I think I can run the entire thing. Let's do that. The flow actually worked as expected. So the next thing we wanted to check whether this lead actually exists in our CRM database. This is our spreadsheet, and we can see there is an email column. So the status is active, the name, the email address. So the next thing we do, we actually attach the information we have in our database to this lead. The information we have in our database is actually this status, tier, and lead score. Now we have one long row, and we have merged everything on email. We use the mode combine, and the input field 1 is the email from the form submission, and the input 2 is the email from the CRM database. So after merging the data, we would like to see if it's a new lead or an existing customer. So we have a filter over here, and if you go inside, we can see that there is a condition. So status should be empty for it to qualify as a new lead. But we can see on the left hand side that our status is actually active, meaning that this is not a new lead, this is in fact an existing customer. And that's why we would like to stop our flow over here. So now instead of using the on-form submission as we did last time, this time around we're going to be using a webhook and Postman. So in other words, this webhook is just an endpoint which expects the post HTTP request from Postman. So the first thing we need to do, we need to go to our lead webhook, double click on it, and enable listening. Then just click on listen for test event. So we can see it started listening. which is cool. Now we're gonna go to Postman, send this post request to our webhook. So let's send it. And it worked. As we can see, the data actually appeared on the right hand side in our output, which is cool. So let's just pin it for now, go back. So now let's run the entire flow. So happy days, the flow has run successfully. Now let's have a look at the nodes we haven't touched before. So first of all, we actually got to the analyze lead node, meaning that this is a new lead and we can double check that with our flow. So as you can see, there is one item. So on this branch, there's always a lead item coming. And in here, we didn't find any match because this branch is grayed out. So let's double check that. So we're gonna go to our CRM lookup and we can see there is no output data returned. So meaning that this email, richardbranson@virgin.com, didn't exist in our database. The flow actually moved further this time. So that was a new lead. This status field is actually empty now, which is good. So that's why we actually got to our AI node, which is analyze lead. So let's double click on it and see what's inside. So here we selected the OpenAI account. So you need to log in with your credentials first time you do it. So then I selected the 4.1 mini model, which is ideal for this sort of tasks. And in here we have our prompt. So you're a sales researcher, you receive B2B leads for an automation agency. So using the data below, classify whether this is a high value lead, mid value or low value, summarize who they are and what they want in 1-2 sentences. Here we're just asking it to provide a valid JSON with this shape, and then we provide the lead data as variables. So we have name, email, company, and message. So, and on the right hand side, we have the final version of a prompt. We can see that AI gave us a response, but it's a raw text. I want to structure this for my CRM. This is the perfect time to use the code node. So I use a simple JavaScript snippet here to add timestamp and format AI's output into more structured output for my CRM. I also added the lead score and whether a user is a high value or not. And if you are struggling with code, a ChatGPT or a Gemini or Claude can help you with coding a lot. So if you need to parse the text data, for example, these sort of tasks LLMs can do easily for you. So we have our value scores, we formatted the outputs. Now we're going to be using the switch node, which is over here. If the AI marked them as high value, we're going to send them a direct message on Slack. And if you're low value or mid value, we are not doing anything here at this stage. We're just logging this information into our database. And finally, the HTTP request node, which is this one over here. So I'm going to send it to Slack. I know guys, some of you would say it's a bad idea. Why would you do that? Because we already have a dedicated Slack node, which has been there for ages. And you're gonna be 100% right. But my point here is that by learning the HTTP node, this gives you like superpower because it works for everything. Discord, Telegram, custom CRMs. You can connect to anything you want. Let's open it. And as you can see, I use the method post and I've provided my Slack incoming webhook over here and then just send the JSON body like so. And now let's go to my Slack and see if this message actually has arrived. And this is the message we were waiting for. We've got the right name, the email, the message. So everything looks perfect. So, and just to be polite, I've added this wait node before we send any final email or Slack notification, so it doesn't look like a bot. You now know more about n8n than most people who have been playing with it and have been working with it for a while. If you want this exact blueprint to import into your own instance, just click the link in the description to download it for free. And if you are ready to go even deeper, join the Automation Orbit School waitlist below. I'll see you later. Thanks for watching.